name's Evan Price. First, I'd like to thank, most importantly, Mums and Debbie, along with the many others that helped organize this year's event. I'm the president of the Truro Herbal Company, or as we call it, the THC, and you can see by the shirt why we went with that acronym. We're a licensed producer applicant from right here in Truro, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my company, and then talk also about some of the industry events that we're all part of right now. So for 2.5 years, my team and I have been working to become a licensed producer of medical cannabis. The way my company started was I had just finished the third year growing hops on the farm that we built out in Glenholm. It was October 2013, and I was working in the business development office of a bank in Halifax. And that morning, that I happened to pick up a copy of the Chronicle Herald, and I read the cover story title, which was Ottawa creates $1.2 billion marijuana industry. And I immediately thought, well, I need to be a part of that. So now, not everybody thinks when they hear medical marijuana industry that they want to be a part of it. At the time, we had a very grumpy older prime minister. And at the time, he didn't like this business very much. He didn't like the people in it very much, and it didn't look like he was going anywhere anytime soon, or so we thought. But it did speak to me because I had this hop farm. Every year I'd hire help from friends and start work in the spring to get the farm set up. And year after year, someone always asked me, so where do we plant the pot? And year after year, I had to tell them, well, are you crazy? This is DeBert. The air base is right over that field, and they practice aerial surveillance right here above us. So I'm not going to jail for growing a few plants. And until that morning in October, when I read the Herald cover story, and I got tired of telling them no, and started thinking about how I could say yes. Yes to planting pot, and yes to being a producer of medical cannabis. So I began researching what we'd need to get one of these licenses and to start producing cannabis for patients here in Atlantic Canada. And at first glance, it looked terribly complex and a very expensive idea. Boy, would that turn out to be an understatement. So I knew I would need some help, some expert help. With any idea to succeed, it depends on the strength of the team. So I went to work finding the best people I knew and to recruit them for jobs with the THC. It was important to get a sense of what we wanted to do with the business first, and to pick the people that would also make that, or would want to make that happen. So our mission statement became to serve Atlantic Canadian patients fairly with the best product quality we could produce. That was going to be an important theme. So one of the important parts of the business was informing physicians about their new tool. So I talked to a physician, a pain physician that I knew, a doctor in Halifax, and signed him up as our vice president of medical development. Another important part was going to be the security of the facility. So I talked to a retired RCMP officer and security consultant that I knew and signed him up as our VP of security. Another part was going to be product quality. So I talked to a chemical biology professor that I had done some hops research with and signed him up as our quality assurance director. But there was one final piece missing. You can't get anyone to buy bad weed more than once. And if they have to buy it, they won't hesitate to tell the world about how bad it is. So I needed to make sure we had the best grower this industry had to offer. So this need created two paths. You can go with either plant experience, or you can go with pot experience. Many of the companies in operation right now chose the first path and are writing off batch after batch because of mold and other things that come from an unskilled plant grower that has no experience with pot. At the THC, we chose to go with the second option. and look for somebody with incredible growing chops in marijuana. But I couldn't really put up a help wanted sign for good prod growers. This was 2013 after all. So luckily my brother has always had great choice in friends. He introduced me to somebody he knows and who you'll be meeting shortly, and somebody you all probably know very well, Darcy Pittman. So after meeting with Darcy a few times, it was impossible to ignore his passion and love for cultivating high-quality cannabis. So we signed him up as our lead grower. And Darcy has one of the most important jobs in our company. And if you ask me, way more important than the job I have as president. I don't exist without a great product to sell. So Darcy also came with deep roots in the patient community for events and outreach like we're doing here today. Since he's been working for years, to make sure that he had access to the necessary medicine to manage his own pain. Every time we had a decision to make, it's Darcy's voice at the table asking, how will this impact patients? And how will we go back to the mission statement to serve our community members fairly with the highest quality product possible? So it's always Darcy keeping us on track, and we couldn't do this work without him. I just wish that every licensed producer had a guy like Darcy on their team, so they wouldn't be trying to get away with the things that they are going to, things that are going on in our business right now. Over the past 2 years, we have watched while companies raise their prices. The old system had a cap on weed. It was crap weed, but they still sold it for $5 a gram. Now the average price under the MMPR has steadily climbed over the past 2 years up to over $8 a gram. And we don't think that that's fair. Now that is better than paying $10 on the street, but the street weed could have been sprayed down with anything in transit, and that could be unsafe for people with little to no option. So in the early days of our industry, there was a race to sign up as many patients as possible, and to do it as fast as possible. They also wanted to have as many strains as possible so their patients would have a lot of different options to choose from and not be strain limited. It's sort of started to look like a Chinese food restaurant menu with all the options, but it would turn out to be a nightmare to try and manage production of all that inventory and all those strains. The LPs would fill your first order quickly just to confirm you as a patient, and then they couldn't fill the second order for months. And at time, because they didn't have someone like Darcy, they had Christmas tree growers or flower growers from a greenhouse managing this massive amount of product production. The wait times began to grow, and prices rised also. And so did the concentration of LPs in only 2 parts of the country. Right now, most of them are only in 2 provinces. So today, some other tricks that are going on is there are LPs out there that are dry sifting their product and then selling this bud. They're keeping the crystal to make the oil, but then selling this raked over leaf as high quality grams for $8 a gram. I've even heard of LPs shuffling pounds out the back door to dispensaries in BC so they can get more money per gram and not have the costs of tracking customer data or shipping. Some companies are grinding up the weed with shake and stalks to make it weigh more and cut down the medical components, and still selling it at even as high as $15 a gram. All of these tricks can be fixed though, and it's by ending the one main problem here, and that's the lack of competition and options for patients. If there were more producers, prices would come down. Quality would need to be higher in order to keep those customers, and power would be in the hands of the patients. As many of you know, right now there are 31 licensed producers, like we hope to be, in all over the country. But only one of them is in this time zone. Only one of them out of 1,200 applications or more that has been approved to provide Atlantic Canadians with medicine close enough to their homes so that unreasonable shipping costs aren't forced upon friends and neighbors with the medical need for this cannabis. It's enshrined by the Supreme Court decisions time after time. Every patient in Nova Scotia is forced to pay $1 or even more for every single gram because we don't have a local producer and they have to buy it out of province. I don't have the money to burn. I don't have the money to give away to other provinces, and I don't think you do either. We need more Atlantic Canadian licensed producers, and we need them now. Many people are running companies in this industry, see this as their job to give you as little as possible and to take as much as possible as fast as possible. They will try and get away with whatever you let them get away with. But the THC built a team that doesn't see it that way. Darcy doesn't see it that way. And we hope when our time comes and you need help accessing cannabis, you'll make us your trusted provider of this necessary medicine. Under the new government, Health Canada has been ramping up review times for applicants, so I can say cautiously that help is on the way. But we need your ideas on how to make this business run with patients in mind. Debbie and Mums, Marcel and MC Pack, and Darcy at the THC will need your stories to take solutions to the task force that is currently writing the laws for the industry as it's being legalized. So please do not let us get away with serving this community fairly, with not serving this community fairly with the highest quality medicine possible, because doing that is exactly why I go to work every morning. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you guys have a great festival.